From sudden floods to erupting wildfires, our environment have been giving us clear warnings. But the real question is, what sustainability really is, and how can businesses and individuals work towards it?
This is an absolutely amazing initiative by Rapidev and Threepole, and absolutely happy to be here with you, Adeena, today. You should be very happy.
I am happy. Assalamualaikum, you're watching another episode of our talks where we share our stories, our point of views, and our experiences. And today we're going to talk about another pressing issue, climate change, and explore new solutions for it. Our today's guest is a powerhouse of creativity, strategy, and impact. Hina Nasir, with 15 years of experience in telecommunication, education, and public sector, she has championed in ESG and sustainability long before it was a trend. Let's hear it from you, Hina. Sustainability is a huge part of your life, right? How did it begin? What was that moment? What was that experience that made you?
Well, when you were doing the introduction, and you said 15 plus years, so I had to literally take a deep breath to realize that it has been 15 years. And then you mentioned that education sector, public sector, and telecommunications. So I've been a very untypical kind of an employee or individual because after completing my education, telecommunication was the big thing in Islamabad. So I thought, okay, bus job will जाए Telenor type की organization में तो it would be amazing. Started off working in finance because my degree was in finance. Spent two and a half or 3 years in finance, and then I realized, oh, what have I done? Because I hated finance, and I was literally doing the same thing over and over again. That's what some people are made to do, but no, not me. So the first opportunity that I got to get out of finance, I took it. Within Telenor, I got a chance to move to different departments like business intelligence, analysis. Then I went deep into the marketing bit. When I started working the marketing side outside of Telenor basically, I got a chance to go to Iraq and spend a year over there as an expat also. So that basically gave me a new way to start a career.
Okay.
So I thought probably marketing is the thing that I want to build myself in. Reputation wise, everybody thought that marketing is really cool. You could do new things. You had new projects coming in. There's product launch. कभी किसी product के पैसे आपने बढ़ाने हैं, कभी कुछ और करना है. So it was all a lot of fun. And of course, when you're recording something, you're doing it with hot shots. The who is who in the market. You're interacting with those kind of people. So it has been a lot of fun. But when I moved to education sector, that was all marketing also. And then public sector was a completely different journey, but for that we need a separate session because when we talk about working for a public sector, I've always been the kind of a person who would dread going to Natra's office or a passport renewal.
Oh, okay.
So from there to getting to a public sector organization is a story in itself, but we'll pick that up some other time.
Inshallah.
I'll come back to sustainability because that's the area that you picked up. I got a chance to work with a startup, and when one of the owners of that company reached out to me that they need some help, and of course you understand that startups don't have a lot of funding. They reached out, they wanted to launch a brand, and I was working full time with one of the other organizations. So I started helping them out. It was a sustainability startup. The moment I started working with them, I realized that how limited my own skill set, knowledge base, awareness is around the most important agenda there is that is related to all of you. You, me, our next generation, our previous generations, and so on and so forth. So the more time I spent with them, the more solid that realization became. And while I was still working with them, I realized and I took a decision that that's it for my corporate life. And whatever I do next, it has to be in the sustainability space. And here I am.
Thank you so much, Hina, for sharing your journey with us. Before we dive deeper into the specifics, I would love to take your insight on sustainability. And we've heard about sustainability and we've heard about ESG. Could you please tell us what's the difference between sustainability and ESG?
Absolutely, and thank you very much for bringing that up. What basically has started happening that we have started using sustainability, ESG, and any other word that starts coming up in the articles or the news channels interchangeably, very easily, without understanding what we actually mean by sustainability or ESG at all.
True.
So in the most basic of terms, Sustainability is, as the word specifies itself, it comes with anything that is sustainable for long term. So when you talk about a business operation, so if you're an organization, so you have to work in a manner that your business operations are not affecting the environment or the society around you in any way negatively. So if you are keeping putting a positive impact generally, then you could say that your operations are sustainable or your business is sustainable. So it has to be very journalized. It is journalized. When we talk about ESG, which is environment, social, and governance, it these are basically terms mostly used for asset managers or investors when they are trying to invest in businesses. We're talking about large businesses, like you talk about somebody if they are expanding business in a new geographical location, the kinds of Unilevers or the startups. There is a rating that is created, or there is this is a metric that on the basis of which organizations are evaluated. So sustainability is a completely different domain. Sustainability is something that you can say that I live sustainably because your impact on the life at large is only positive. So it has to be kept very separate, and it's very important to understand.
That's great, Hina. And what's your take on changing climate, and why are big organizations to local communities talking about it?
Well, that is another very important topic that you've picked up. As we're living in Pakistan, we understand that we are the eighth nation globally, talking about global perspective. We are the most impacted nation. You have heard about the sudden floods that are coming, these monsoon rains, these wildfires all across the world, not just in Pakistan. So these are all the signs of climate change. And for if you go a decade back, everybody thought that this is probably something that our next generation is going to face. But this is happening right now. Every season is getting worse than the previous one.
True.
Every weather forecast is coming out wrong. Every crop, for example, that we used to grow in a certain month, that is coming out in a way that we are facing food shortages now. So when you look at it from a larger perspective, you understand that these things are linked with business sustainability, like we talked about, business viability. Like if your operations are dependent on a supply chain, you won't get the raw material because there are floods in that area, or the raw material didn't even grow on the time. And that means your factory, your systems will not be operating. So that is one aspect. And then ESG regulations and policies all across the world has started becoming very stringent now. There were targets that countries adapted for 2030, where they agreed that they will keep the global carbon emissions below a certain point, but we are nowhere close to achieving that target, and we are bypassing the danger zone every single day. So by default, everybody is taking this as a risk from investors' point of view and from livelihood point of view.
And Hina, we know that you're working around sustainability, and in your introduction, you mentioned that there's a lack of awareness, right? So, what do you think, as individuals on organizational base level, what we can do about it? How we can fill the gap?
You very rightly pointed out, Adeena. When we talk about awareness, it's a very simple formula that if you're not aware of a problem, if you do not realize it every time you're waking up or closing out your day, you won't be able to look into it deeply enough to solve it. Same as the problem with being sustainable or living sustainability. We have started taking nature for granted.
True.
We think that all the things that are around us, for example, the air, the greenery, the plants and the trees, or all these things, basically, they are never-ending resources. But that's not true. The biodiversity, the nature-based solutions, the nature around us is basically dying right now. When we talk about Pakistan, we are still lacking significantly in terms of what needs to be done. There are very few innovative companies that have figured out that they need to build their operations around sustainability, and they've started working towards it. Some of the companies that I definitely am not going to name, but I know they started working this year around their sustainability and ESG plans just because they are partners with some of the biggest international companies, Fortune 500 companies. And being a Fortune 500 company, they have to report on their whole supply chain. So if you're a vendor or a partner, you also have to report if your parent company is a Fortune 500 company. So the moment they received the letters from them that you have to report on your ESG, your sustainability, they started looking literally everywhere, trying to find a solution, trying to find a consultant, trying to find a company who can work on these things. But there's a little problem with this. As long as we will just be triggered by a threat, which is by a parent company, things will not flow forward for the long term. The realization that if we do not build sustainability in our personal lives and in the business lives, we will be in a very worse off situation from our livelihood, from our financial viability, economically. We'll be going through crisis. We are already going through a crisis. If you talk about the number of lives we have lost, number of crops we have lost, number of cities that have gone under the glaciers. So keeping that in mind, I think everybody should take the onus on themselves to understand this very important topic.
That was great, Hina. And what everyday practices do you think individuals and businesses should adapt to be more sustainable?
I think when you talk about individuals, the behavioral changes have to trigger at some point in time. As long as we keep on doing ad hoc things, like one thing, planting one tree in a month or a year just because we want to be more sustainable or we want to use that picture on the LinkedIn for people like me, like I mean, it's not going to be of any long-term impact. We were talking right before the session also that I'm working with this organization. It's called Green Earth Token. That's exactly trying to solve the same problem. Because behavioral changes are going to happen when you keep on doing something with a conscious mind, conscious effort over and over again. And then you need a friend or an app that gives you those nudges also that, maybe did you turn off all the lights or are you consuming electricity too much? Are you taking longer showers than are required? And questions like those. Or so through these apps that we mentioned earlier also, this is just one of the examples of how behavioral changes can happen. Other than that, if you mentioned top 2-3 things, I think being very conscious of your daily buying habits, that's one thing. Consumption of energy and transportation. I think these are the 3 things that we should be very careful of when talking about individual impact, because these are the key contributors in individual impact.
And what about corporate sustainability?
Yeah, so regarding the corporates, because they are basically carrying with them 500, 1,000, sometimes 5,000 employees, I think their impact is harder to achieve, but once they get there, the impact is lifelong also. They need to build sustainability as part of all of their operations. It's not very easy to do because, for example, even if you go out today and you try to look for a sustainable vendor for any replacement of any of your raw material or one of the processes, you might not be able to find it. But just putting out that effort basically would mean that the demand is being generated. That means the supply will automatically match it at some point in time. So the least we can do at this point in time is start reporting on our carbon emissions, keep a track of it, make some short-term and long-term plans. A lot of companies make a 10-year plan that they will reduce their carbon emission by, let's say, 30% or 40%. The ones that they cannot remove or produce, they will offset it with anything that is really good for the environment. For example, if you are working on a product that consumes a lot of water and the area where your factories are, the water is getting contaminated, you have to do some cleanup drives. So your positive impacts towards the community, the nature, should be more than the negative impacts that are coming out in form of carbon emissions.
Okay, Hina, and you mentioned that transportation is a major contributor in carbon emission, and we know that you have been working on carbon neutral events. So, what's your take on it? Like, what motivated you to work on it?
So it's very interesting. COP28 was happening in Dubai a couple of years back, and there was a lot of bad PR around it. There were around 17,000 people who traveled from all across the world. They came, some of them even traveled in private jets because there were representation from 190 plus countries. So people are coming in private jets, they are coming in, taking flights from all across the world to be part of an event where they're trying to solve a climate-related problem or a sustainability-related problem, but they are becoming part of the problem. So when I was looking at that PR catastrophe, I realized that this is something that people are still not thinking about to those depths, basically. although COP28 and these events, they have huge teams trying to do a lot of different. And then COP29 also, the one that happened in Azerbaijan. There were pictures coming out where a single plastic-made cutlery was being used to serve the food. Even the coffee mugs were not something that can be composited later on. So these were the things that when I was looking at these things, I thought that maybe if they had somebody who could guide them how they can, with minor changes, how they can reduce or change the strategy, change the vendor, change the kind of decisions they're making, they can literally reduce their carbon footprint. Also, there are lots of carbon calculators out there already. So there are ones that you can use at an individual level. We were talking about earlier your individual impact and awareness. There are ones that corporates to use करते हैं अपनी sustainability and carbon emissions को report करने के लिए. And events के लिए specific carbon calculators भी मौजूद हैं. I studied like 40 of them. अब वो study करने से मैंने उसकी gaps analyze करने थे. So before I got into the whole thing, मैंने उसको बैठ के analyze किया. I saw कि 2-3 major problems नजर आ रहे मुझे अभी. कि आपने carbon calculator तो बना के दे दिया. It's like I've literally served it to you free of cost. If you're planning a company, you can put all your actions, all your decisions in that, and you'll have a number of how much carbon you have emitted. But मसला वो था ही नहीं. मसला start यहाँ से होता है कि when you were making the plan for the event, you didn't think about it. You didn't think about it when you were picking a venue. और आपने ऐसे venue choose किया that was high on electricity usage. 500 लाइटें लगी हैं उसके अंदर कोई स्मार्ट कंजम्पशन नहीं है. आपके जो पार्किंग सिस्टम्स हैं वो उसके अंदर इलेक्ट्रिसिटी और एनर्जी कंज्यूम हो रहा है. सो यू डिडंट मेक द राइट डिसीजंस. सो द बिगेस्ट loophole that I found was not the missing carbon calculators in the market, but missing strategies that people are not aware of. So what I'm trying to build here is a 4-step process. Start with avoiding and reducing the carbon emission that is supposed to happen if you don't make some good decisions at the beginning. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2 is the carbon emission that you could not reduce. Like we just mentioned, that for a lot of things that you want to change and replace it with a sustainable option, you won't find vendors out there. And let's accept it as a reality. It's not like you can go and you can say we can't serve a coffee or tea because there are no good quality or eco-friendly options available. Or you want to give a goodie bag with some good options, but you won't go for anything just because there's nowhere available. So try to make a conscious efforts in making these smaller decisions. But once you have done that, the remaining carbon emission, you still calculate that. Okay? So that's the step number 2. Once you've calculated the emissions, you go and offset those emissions. I know carbon credit is another topic that people are, people do not buy into carbon credits at this point in time, but I say on this that it's better than doing nothing. Okay, so if you have created a mess, you clean it up one way or the other. You can do something for the community for that case. I don't care, as long as you make sure that your impact has been offset. When these 3 steps are done, you still don't end there. You create a carbon emission report for your event. You send it to all the stakeholders. You tell your sponsors. You tell all the audience that the event for which they travel from another country first, they should discourage it for sure. But for the event they traveled, the event organizer, they went out of the way to make their carbon footprint absolutely neutral. What will that do, Adeena? Like we were talking in the beginning also, it will trigger a behavioral change again. Because if you go to an event by an XYZ organizer, you'll see that after 10 days you'll get a notification. They say that here is a link for the pictures, like everybody's waiting for those pictures, I'm sure. And then they also tell you that we have offsetted all the carbon footprint that you also created. Not just they created at the event venue, but because of your travel and everything that was created. So I think when you get that notification for the first time, you'll be wowed, okay? But when you get it for the second time and third time, after that it will be kind of an expectation that you have built. So next time when somebody invites you to come to an event as a speaker or as a participant, you'll ask them, what are you doing about your own footprint? What are you doing about your carbon emissions that you're generating? When the people start asking those questions, as a result, organizations will be forced to take into account all the emissions that they are creating and reduce or remove their footprint. That's what I want.
Thank you so much, Hina, for such detailed answer. But that's enough with seriousness. Let's have some fun with rapid fire round. Alright, so in this round, I'll throw a question at you and you have to give any answer that comes in your mind.
Is it one word or
One word that comes in your mind. Anything, okay? Are you ready?
Sure.
Climate,
Crisis.
sustainability,
Patagonia.
air pollution,
Dreadful.
carbon,
Neutral.
earth,
Home.
green,
Bonds.
environment,
Friendly.
clean air,
Three-pole.
plastic,
Pollution.
recycling,
Not the end of the world.
SDG,
13. Climate action.
deforestation,
Regret.
innovation,
Rapidev.
air tech,
Three-pole. Can I say that?
innovation,
Can I say Rapidev?
yes, sustainable brand,
Patagonia again.
and one word for three-pole.
Innovative.
Love those answers. Alright, so let's go on our third round, which is Mythbuster round. Alright, Hina, so this is our third round, myth busting round. In this round, we know there's so much misinformation about clean air, climate, environment. So in this round, we will bust those myths. So we need to tell us which is true and what is false.
Okay, so this is true. This is false. Okay, let's go.
Okay, so I'll say a statement and you have to tell me if it's true or it's false. Okay?
Okay.
Green upgrades always cost more.
False. Because if you start looking at the ROIs of businesses, everything that you invest in green business today, it's going to multiply in coming years.
Good. Only large corporations can make a difference.
Absolutely false. There are so many SMEs, so many startups, so many individuals that are making so much. They're doing so much work around the impact space. They're making such a big difference. So absolutely wrong.
Okay. And recycling solves it all.
I think you would want me to answer true, but that's false.
Oh.
Recycling is not everything. There are 5 R's that you have to follow through. That includes reuse, recycle, refurbish. Unless you're doing all of that, you can't actually be circular in your way of living. So just recycling is not going to solve the problem. So false.
Solar panels don't work in cloudy weathers.
You didn't say maybe. You didn't give me a maybe option. So solar panels do work in the cloudy weather. It's just that because they are not getting the direct sun, so for the time being, they might be less effective. But that's pretty much it. But still, go for the solar panels, please.
Okay. Planting trees is the best way to fight climate change.
Again,
True?
might sound true, but
It's false.
yeah, it's basically the problem. The problem with this statement is that if we keep on planting unlimited amount of trees, but we don't solve the ground root problem, which is the emission, our habits, our plastic pollution that we are creating. If you don't solve that, tree plantation is not going to solve it. एक दरख्त को लगा के बड़ा होने तक, by the time it can absorb enough emission, it takes decades and decades. So no, it's not gonna work.
Eco-friendly products are always expensive.
True if you look in the short term. False if you talk about long term, because they will always pay back in terms of better ROI, not only from the economic sense, but from the nature's point of view also.
Switching to three-pole products makes a big difference.
I'll go with true for this one, because thanks to you guys, I have had a whole round of all, and I have gotten the demo for a lot of products. I even saw the smog detector and the absorber
Smoke
that's
tower, yes.
that's planted, as a sample over there. So I'm good. Right, that's good. And yes, you guys didn't pay me to do this.
Climate change will only affect future generation.
No, that's absolutely false.
You
because
mentioned that before, yes.
we discussed this. We are facing this firsthand. It's very close to the house. The areas that we live in, they are flooded for the first time in the world. The countries that we have always seen, heard that they're very cold. They're getting warmer temperatures. My family living in the UK, they bought the fans for the first time. Three-pole should expand their business to there.
We would love to. If everyone turned off unused light for 1 hour a day, we could power an entire country.
is true depending on the size of the country we're talking about, but 1 hour, doing anything for 1 hour a day is not going to solve the problem. The behaviors have to change. Like every time we see a light, we have to turn it off. It has to be triggered like that for the long term impact.
Okay. If plant had a voice, they would probably be screaming during Lahore smoke season.
Absolutely. I think we are also screaming every time we visit Lahore in the smog season. But yeah.
Thank you so much, Hina. That's all for our Mythbuster round. Do you have any message for our viewers?
Does it have to be related to one of the myths?
No.
Okay. Since I'm neck deep into sustainability and the impact area, I would like to urge everybody to take the responsibility instead of somebody else coming to you and asking you or telling you about sustainability or your responsibility. Take an ownership. Take an ownership for your own home, your own office, your own personal space, and your own family. Because every time we start doing that, the impact will be so broad that it will be almost equivalent to the corporate impact. So, like I have read it so many times that what difference can I make if the same question is asked by 8 billion people? You'll know where we end up. So that's pretty much it. And thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much, Hina, for your insights, and thank you all for watching this episode of RTalk. If you have any feedback, email us here. Till then, Allah Hafiz.